how did you find out that Our Lady Peace was looking for a drummer?
Well, this is the management connection again, actually. I was hounding them because Finger 11 needed a drummer, and I was literally like emailing Rob Lanny probably like once a day, being like, "Is there any news? Is there any news?" And then out of nowhere, I'm in my rehearsal space downtown at like Queen and Bathurst, and I get this email being like, "This isn't about Finger 11, but like, would you be interested in prospectively like talking with OLP?" I had no idea anything had happened, and this literally was maybe like a day after Taggart had like stepped down. So yeah, they emailed me. I met up with Duncan Coots, the bassist. We had coffee, a couple pastries as rock and roll guys do. And a couple days later, we just went like into his home studio, jammed through some songs, and a couple I think it was like 3 or 4 days later, I got a call being like, "Would you be interested in coming out and like doing these summer shows with us?" So I started out as like just a hired live drummer because that's kind of what I did back then. I wasn't like committing to anything. I was floating between projects all the time. So yeah, we did those, and the rest is kind of just history. We hit it off in such a profound way that it's undeniable that these are the people that I need to be spending my time with.
So you jammed with Duncan. There wasn't a full band audition. It was kind of just through you and Duncan. Duncan vouched for like, yeah, this is our guy, and then you got offered live shows.
Exactly. Yeah. I didn't play with the whole band until I think a day or two before the first show. We did rehearsals. Coalition used to have a rehearsal showcase room built into a cathedral in their old offices. And yeah, we rehearsed there for like a day and then flew out for the first few shows, which was crazy. It was like, you know, you just what Superman's Dead and Clumsy and 4 a.m. with those songs from that record meant to me as a human and as like a kid growing up, being part of those songs being recreated live was like mind blowing. I couldn't believe that like all this time in tour buses and airplanes and hotels and airports has led to, being able to like really connect my heart with something that means so much to me.
And do you remember the exact moment that you received the news that you were going to be playing shows with Our Lady Peace?
Yeah, I was oddly enough, I was in Coalition because I was producing a band called Kink. We were doing a record there, and my phone was ringing and it was Coots. I just picked it up. I walked into the live room and he told me right then, and I was shaking. I'm like, this is happening. Like, I can't believe this is happening.
And what were the challenges of joining a band that has already achieved so much success?
Well, I think the biggest challenge to start with was trying to do justice to the drum parts and to the songs themselves. Like, what, as we had hit on already, like what Jared put down on those songs, it's timeless stuff that deserves respect. So it was trying to make sure that I'm paying homage to what he had created that had made the songs, as important as they are. Besides that, it was just getting over my own nerves on it. Some people say they don't get nervous and stuff like that. I am constantly in my head worried about being able to perform just because like what I do is so full body encompassing that I used to get wrist pain. If my back's hurting, that's a thing, all sorts of things, um so it's just like getting out of my own way in those situations because I've been doing it so long that I know I can do it. It's just there's a mental block there sometimes.
Would you say you were more nervous at the start of joining the band, or were you more excited? So more nervous that, oh my God, this is a band I love and an iconic Canadian band, or were you more excited that, man, I'm the guy for this job. I'm excited for this.
Oh, I was more excited, totally more excited. I think I was most nervous when I asked to become a member because it wasn't like they offered that to me or anything like that. We were sitting around in a Rain studio and I brought it up. I was like, this is just where I want to go with this. and I was sweating buckets like completely. Like, yeah, but the guys were really open to the idea and supportive, and they always have been. That's like they're just the sweetest guys. And yeah, I'm thankful that everything has worked out the way it has, and that these guys are in my life.
So, they already had so many albums. There's so many songs that you have to learn from that discography. Is there some science to learning that many songs? Does a band start by providing you with a list of like, hey, if we were to play live tomorrow, these are the 15 songs we would be playing. So start with these and then try adding songs as you go over time. Is there a science to this?
That's totally what it is. Like when we first started out, I think they sent me a set list, and then there was like a list of audibles, which are just songs that Rain might call. And it's still the same thing to this day. Like even with this last tour, there was a list of songs that we're definitely going to do, but we're going to throw into different set lists. And then there's going to be audibles that they might get called. So be prepared. Um, it hasn't ever been like learn every last OLP song because there's so many. Like there's just so many songs.
And what would you say is what was the most challenging Our Lady Peace song to learn? And we're talking about Jeremy, and it's not like it's playing Meshuggah or something, just like
Yeah,
where your arms are gonna fall off. But it's sometimes it's the timing or just the uniqueness of his playing that maybe it's not something you would have normally played. Like it can be, it's not that hard to play, but it's awkward to play, so it kind of goes against your
100%.
style.
Yeah, Angels Losing Sleep. That song 100%. I remember when Never Ending White Lights was opening for OLP on the Paranoid Times tour. And I remember the first show they sound checked that song. And I'm just like, what the hell, man? It's what his foot's doing underneath that is just creating this like rolling momentum thing that, you stop that and the whole song would just kind of train wreck. So I actually remember one of my first OLP shows, we were playing that song. And we had done it in sound check, and I went to have a nap that afternoon before we had to play, and I couldn't sleep because I was like obsessing about the bridge. I was like tapping it out of my legs, like the foot's going in the bed. Like, yeah, totally. It's that song 100%. And yeah, I get stoked now when we get to play that. We don't play it every show, but like when we do, it's like I feel like I've put so much time and energy into that song that I feel like I can kind of connect with it in a way that's pretty unique.
So we have a fan question sent in. This is from Megan Port, and this is my friend that I brought to meet you guys at the show in Ottawa in April. So
Nice.
I thought I was a big OLP fan. I think that was my fifth time seeing you guys. This was her 15th time,
Oh wow.
and she got to meet you guys, and I didn't even know that she was that big of a fan before. But afterwards, she posted a picture with Duncan and Rain, and she put a dream come true. This is the best night of my life. Like I had no idea that that night had that impact on her. So the right person benefited from that show, which is awesome. And she sent
I
in a
love that.
question. So this is from Megan. She asks, how have you impacted OLP's sound, and how has playing with OLP impacted your drumming?
Hmm. I feel like OLP's made me more musical. Um, Back when I first came into the band, I kind of played dynamically less. I feel like I was kind of like shifting at like a certain level, and I never dropped down to where OLP has brought me. OLP will go from like a whisper to a scream. There's such a huge, vast difference in not just like volume, but like it creates like a feel thing. So that's definitely been something that's made me grow as a musician. My impact on OLP, I think I brought a bit of edge that they were not necessarily lacking, but something that like brought a different flavor to the band. And just my excitement. I have so much love for the people and the songs that I feel like that is maybe one of my stronger things. It's just I care.
So we're gonna dive into the two studio albums that you've done. Final question before that. So as well as playing with Our Lady Peace, you also play with Chantal Kreviazik. So for those that don't know, this is Our Lady Peace singer Rain Maida's wife, who's also an
Mhm.
incredible musician. Man, I remember her debut single "Surrounded" when that came out way back. I was so young when that came out, and I remember the music video. I was obsessed with her. She was like my crush when I was a kid. So she's incredible. And there's a fan question. So this is from Dustin Pomeroy, the person that recommended that we do this interview. And his question is, does he feel like a child of divorced parents fighting for custody when he bounces back and forth between OLP and Chantal Kreviazik? Seriously, though, super cool that he plays for both her and Rain. So a silly question from Dustin.
That's funny. That's really funny. Not so much. She's incredible. Yeah, man. The first time I ever did anything with her, it was with Rain and Chantel because they've had like all these side projects like Moon vs. Sun. I think it's just Rain and Chantel now. Um,
And
but we
tours
were
together,
playing.
right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The first thing we ever did was at the Olympic Amphitheater in where the hell is that? Just outside of Vancouver. What's the big ski thing? Ski place there?
Uh,
Whistler.
Whistler, BC. Yeah.
That's yeah, yeah. Duncan would kick my butt for not knowing that. He is such an avid skier. But yeah, we were playing this like the Olympic amphitheater there, and it was, just it connected. Things just felt so good that after that, Chantel started calling me for stuff. And she's like such an amazing, caring human being and like such an incredible performer. We just did a live at Massey Hall that is being released soon for CBC. We did that in, I think, when was that? Was that December already? I'm losing my mind.
That was with Chantal.
With Chantel, yeah,
Hmm.
it's like I said, it's not out yet. I don't think. I saw a draft of it, and it's like I'm extremely proud of it. I don't think I've ever heard a mixed for TV thing that is sounds that amazing, full, rich, and like articulated. Like everything about that is just so good, man. Um, and yeah, it's crazy. Like yeah, you mentioned that song "Surrounded." My mother passed away when I was 26, and that was her favorite song. So when I hear Chantel sing that, it's like again one of those full circle things, being like, how am I around something that has such a huge gravity and impact on my personal life again? Like it just doesn't make sense to me sometimes. But yeah, she's amazing. I actually she asked me to do some dates this summer, and I can't make any of them because OLP is so busy. So I'm a little heartbroken I don't get to do those, but we'll get back at that.
That's kind of funny that you can't do some of her dates because of her husband's band. Like
Custody battle,
you
man.
feel like she'll just be like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, we need
Right?
him for a few shows. Yeah. It feels
Yeah,
like
no.
it's an easy conversation in there. She has the inside connection, so
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Like you'd think she'd know I was busy, but it's okay. It's okay. Like,
they both have their own crazy schedules. Man, Massey Hall is considered one of the greatest venues on the planet, one of the best sounding venues on the planet. What is it like to play there? I'm sure you growing up at some point you must have seen a concert at Massey Hall before playing there.
I had never been to a show there.
Oh
I was
wow.
supposed to. Well, kind of a long story. Do you remember Ashley Simpson?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, her drummer Chris Fox was a buddy of mine, and we used to like swap drum kits over the internet. So in the Pieces of Me video, like that AOT kit was actually my kit that I bought as a kid. And he was coming through Massey Hall with her and invited me to the show. But I lived in London and I was so young, I couldn't even get up there or anything. So that was like my only opportunity to go to a show at Massey. And besides that, like the first time I played there was with Carly Rae opening for Trench, Mariana's Trench. But that room is just incredible, man. Like it's so cool. I played there probably like nearly 10 times at least now. OLP's done so many shows there, and I played there with Chantel. And like, I'm actually, I think I'm in the book. There's a Massey Hall book because at a sound check for OLP, this fan asked his girlfriend to marry him. And like that whole like process and that story made it into the Massey Hall book. So it's crazy. Like, yeah, man, like to be part of that history.
I just thought of a connection in my head with, so you keep mentioning Carly Rae Jepsen and Mariana's Trench. Uh,
Yeah,
Josh, the singer from Mariana's Trench, actually co-wrote Call Me Maybe as well.
he produced it too, I
Oh, he
think. Yeah,
produced it. So that's a wild
and
connection.
co-wrote it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And
Yeah,
man, Massey Hall, I saw Death Cab for Cutie there. I saw Ryan Adams there. I've seen lo- lots of artists there. It's man, it must be so cool to play there. I remember, so I was all the way at the back, which there's no bad seat in the house. It's not a huge
yeah,
venue, but I was all the way at the back, and I for maybe it was Ryan Adams. He's playing a song just solo acoustic. And even though I'm the furthest seat from him, it sounded like he was standing beside me, like we were at a campfire, and he was just playing and singing. It didn't sound like there was any microphones or amplification. It just sounded
totally.
like the source audio. It was wild.
That's crazy, man. That's special.
Yeah,
Well,
that's how
that's
good
like
that venue is.
well that venue, and that like ties back to that whole like Dallas Green thing being like when it's real, it's real. Like crap inputs, crap output. If it's like the vibes there and that performance is there, then it's incredible, man. But yeah, Massey's so special. Like I remember my first time playing there, just being so nervous. Like,
So in 2018, Our Lady Peace releases the album Somethingness, and
yeah.
this is your first album with Our Lady Peace. So how excited were you after the years of touring? Originally, you were a hired live drummer, and then
Mhm.
eventually you are on a legit Our Lady Peace album. How excited were you for that experience? And maybe you could talk a little bit about maybe the writing or recording of that album.
Yeah, I was super excited. I remember the night before we were flying out. Well, we recorded like that record in different like batches of songs as we do. And the first batch was "Drop Me in the Water," "Falling into Place." What else did we record that?
So it was two EPs, I guess, to start, and then eventually it was together as a full length.
Exactly. I think we were trying to get the EP out, the first one out with "Drop Me in the Water" because we were going out with Guns N' Roses. So it was
Hmm.
kind of like having some ammo there to be able to like launch off of. But the night before we were flying out to do "Drop Me in the Water" and those songs, first off, I had never heard those songs till I got in the studio. But the night before, I was trying to make chicken parm for my now wife, and a big uh, glump, a big amount of olive oil jumped out of the pan right on the top of my hand, and my hand just bubbled up to the point like I can't like move my hand properly. I'm like I've ruined it. Like my opportunity's gone. They're gonna have to get like some session drummer in Los Angeles now to do this all. But luckily, I made it through. I had like a piece of my hand falling off as I'm recording. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
left
I
a
still
part of
played through it.
yourself on that album,
You can hear my
or at
pain
least
in the drum
physically in that
parts.
studio. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, we were in Jackson Brown's studio in Santa Monica, and I get into the studio and I'm like, "Boys, what are we recording?" They're like, "Oh, you haven't heard the songs?" I'm like, "No, no one sent me anything." So, kind of like that Josh Freese 12 Stone thing, just like I charted it out. We went in and just like banged them out, and it worked out great. Um, Luckily, I was able to perform under that pressure and the pain. And yeah, man, that was like really special. It was like the first time that we were live off the floor as a band creating something like that. And it was incredible, man.
And do you have a favorite part of the recording process? Is it the writing of the songs, the jamming and fleshing out the songs with the other members? Is it the actual recording? Is it once it's released, the promoting of it and the touring and the making of the music videos? Is there a favorite chunk in there?
I love all of it. Like there's something really special about when you're in the studio and you're creating something. Um, just the process of trying to flush out parts, arrangements, stuff like that, and then actually like having the painting in your head and actually performing it. It's incredible. There's so much magic in all of that. From the writing perspective, even to this day, Sometimes I write ideas and I submit them. Sometimes it's me and Duncan. But like everyone kind of puts in their 2 cents, and it's always for the best of the project, the best of the song. That's just how OLP operates. It's not, it's totally selfless. It's not about any of us or egos or anything like that. It's literally what is best for this band, what is best for this record, you know. So yeah, it's the whole process, man. And I love touring. I love playing shows. It's got its own set of challenges now that I have a 5 year old yeah, and a life, you know. But I wouldn't trade any of that for the world. Like it, I can't believe it's a job. Like sometimes it feels like work, but at the same point, it's like, I get to play drums in front of tens of thousands of people and play on songs that mean things to other people. So, you know, very thankful.
And how good did it feel once Drop Me in the Water is out at radio as a single? You're hearing that, and then it's release day, and you get a physical copy of Something This, the album, in your hand. How does that, like, oh, this is the official OLP member moment here?
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it felt incredible. I remember sitting in the graphic artist's studio with Duncan as we were like creating the album cover. Like it's crazy that it's crazy and amazing that they supported me in that way that early on in my career as a member too. Like making sure that I felt like I had a say in things like that. Because at that point, like I don't know if I would have let someone else have any sort of artistic control over the art on an album or anything like that. Because why would you? There's really no reason to unless you actually love that person's input or want that person to actually be more of a part of things, you know?
So we have a fan question. This might be the sweetest fan question of the interview. This is from Andrew White. His question is, he says, huge OLP fan since 95. How does it feel once fans come up to you or other members of OLP stating that your music gives them a sense of self-worth, confidence, and dignity that they forget they have sometimes? Listening to OLP music truly helps when one is going through a rough time. If you come back to Newfoundland, please play Denied. All the best. Stay safe on the road. That's from Andrew White.
Denied. I love it. Yeah, he's a sweetie. I've met him a few times. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy the impact a lot of these songs have had on people. We see that kind of like time and time again when we're doing like the VIPs. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we do like a VIP kind of meet and greet thing before the shows every night. And yet, I feel the same way about the songs. Like those songs have got me through stuff too, and we all feel that same way about music in general, obviously, because this is what we do. But like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's amazing the way that people can use OLP songs as almost like therapy, to get them through whatever they're going through.
So in 2021, you guys put out Spiritual Machines 2. So this is a sequel to the beloved double platinum concept album from 2000. So that original album had the hit singles In Repair, Life, and Right Behind You, Mafia. When did the idea of making a sequel to that beloved album start to fester, start to take hold?
Well, we started recording for that album cycle before the world shut down with COVID. We were out with Live in Bush, doing like an amphitheater tour through the states in 2019, and we had locked in to work with a guy named Dave Sidik, who was in a band called TV on the Radio. He produced the Yeah Yeahs and Weezer and a bunch of really cool stuff.
He did Beyonce and Jay-Z. He did some stuff with them.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Um, but we ended up at his studio, and we were working on Stop Making Stupid People Famous. That was the first song that we finished for that record. So that kind of like laid the groundwork for that. I'm not 100% sure when the concept for Spiritual Machines 2 really came to fruition. I just know that the rest of the record, because of the gravity of what was going on with the world at that time, we had to do it all remote. So it was like cutting drums, sending them to Los Angeles with the time change and the different projects the producers were working on, waiting for them to listen to stuff, being like, no, 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 change this part. And I'm like, okay, good thing I didn't move my mics for 2 days and go and like try to like punch in and make things work. It was a very different record to make. And like challenging in the way that like when you're hashing parts out as a band together, you're obviously feeding off each other and creating something in the room in the moment. And you don't have that opportunity when everything is done separately. You're trying to find the beauty in the moments without having the fuel of other people, if that makes sense.
So the album had two singles. You mentioned already Stop Making Stupid People Famous. The other one was Future Disease. Was there a fear in making a sequel to an album that people love so much?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just found it really cool to, try to continue the legacy of that record, especially with like the Ray Kurzweil stuff. And I don't know if you know, but a lot of those like the tracks where Ray is talking, I did like a lot of that sound design underneath it. So like getting to like create like those weird sounds and like create those moments of something that kind of harks back to something I grew up on was like incredible.
And you mentioned this was in the middle of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
the pandemic, there's so much fear and chaos and uncertainty and all these things. Did it feel cathartic to release something positive during such a negative and strange time?
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's a positivity coming from Rain that like really it was beautiful and it really helped. Like I just loved the way that it wasn't dark and it was, especially with like Kurzweil's predictions and stuff, just being like the future isn't chaotic. It doesn't have to be chaotic. It can all come together for the greater good, you know?
We have a fan question from John Michael Liliev. His question is, what is a moment where you sat there behind the kit and just thought, wow, I can't believe I get to do this?
It happens sometimes. Like I don't know, as a performer, you have to learn that it's never gonna always be perfect. There's moments that make you realize why you do it. It makes you realize that like it can click and be amazing. I even had that on this last tour, a couple of shows where I'm looking out and I'm like just so thankful that this is like happening right now. As hard as it is, being away from everything you love, it's just there's so many people that wish they could be in that moment that like if you don't have that little moment of clarity knowing that like you're thankful for it, then what's it worth, and even back to like my first, I think it was my first OLP show, we were playing with Rob Thomas at the Oxford Stomp in Calgary, and I looked out and it was one of those again being like I'm so thankful for this, you know so it does happen when things click properly.
So, in listening to that album, I believe I hear some programmed drums, which makes sense for an album about technology and machines and that kind of stuff. Is programming something that drummers these days they have to learn? Like that has to be a tool in the toolkit besides just being a great drummer that you have to learn technology and programming and samples and computers?
I think some people can get away without doing it depending on the genre and like what they're doing with it. But that's just not me. I've produced a lot of records, mixed records, and been on the other side of it. So the whole programming thing, I really embraced. A lot of the like programming stuff, especially with Spiritual Machines 2, is like overlaid over actual drums and stuff to try to like tie into that sound. Um, but yeah, like I don't know if like I don't think if you're like playing in a jazz band, you necessarily need to know how to make an 808 sound good. But like to have a broader stroke, it's probably something that is totally intuitive with what is going on.
So we mentioned original Our Lady Peace guitarist Mike Turner a little bit earlier in the interview. He came back to be a part of this album because he had a big part to do with the original Spiritual Machines album. So this is
Yes.
he came back. He helped work on this album. It's his first since 2002, Gravity in 2002. What a couple questions. What was his involvement in this album, and what was it like to have like the OG back for that process?
I believe his involvement on the record was one of those Kurzweil songs or Kurzweil tracks where he's talking. He did the music underneath one of those. His biggest impact with that whole time period was the tour because we did the Wonderful Future tour, did it in two different legs, but we had these huge holographic boxes on stage, which were awesome. Maybe a little bit of a pain in the ass, but they were pretty awesome. And for the lion's share of the shows, Turner wasn't there, but his holograph was there for some of the songs, which was so badass. But some of the shows, like the bigger markets, I think it was like Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto, Turner actually came out to those shows. So he would start as a
Nice.
holograph and then he would walk on stage as like a reveal, which was crazy.
People
Like
probably didn't expect that at all after all this
totally,
time.
people didn't expect that. And it's just, some of those older songs, it's just they're in his fingers the way he plays them. And like it's the same as like, Jimmy Chamberlain with the Pumpkins when you hear him play those older songs. Like no one else sounds like that. As much as anyone wants to try to sound like that, it's like it's just inherent in their being and their soul that like that's just what they sound like. So it was crazy to actually hear that. And Turner's such a great guy too. Like I've had a long history with him.
So I find that the equivalent of us talking about Jeremy Taggart and his very unique drum playing on those original albums, I find Mike Turner is the exact same for guitar. Like his guitar
Totally.
playing is so unique that those, you know, I guess up until Gravity, those albums, the guitar is a part of what made the Our Lady Peace sound so unique back then. Do you agree with that? It's a
100%.
very different guitar playing.
100%, man. Yeah, it was just the way that he thought of like notes and chords. It was extremely unique, and for that time period in music, for when that record came out, like it was a real integral part of what made those songs. Totally.
So we have a fan question. This is from Noelle Gray, and she was actually in an Our Lady Peace music video for a song called "The Right Stuff" off of the deluxe edition of Burn Burn. So Noelle asks, "What is the band you have yet to work with that would be a dream come true?"
Oh man, that's a hard one. Um, Nine Inch Nails, maybe. Like I love that band. I just love like heavy music. When it connects, and it doesn't have to be like a lot of notes. It's just there's a mood with it. And I think Trent Reznor is so talented. Like anything that guy touches. I think that would be like the ultimate. That or like Guns N' Roses. Again, that would be a full circle thing. But like or Brian Adams. I love Brian Adams a bit too much.
That's awesome. I was going to get my dad tickets for his birthday to the Eagles that were playing Ottawa, but I think nosebleeds are normally $60, $80 for a lot of concerts. It's changed a bit during the pandemic, but I was trying to get just nosebleeds and it was, I don't know, 300, 400, $500 for nosebleeds to the Eagles. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know if I or he likes them that much. And then Brian Adams announces he's playing the arena and tickets are like $30 and we're like, what? So I get him tickets and we go and he plays for 2 hours and every song is the biggest hit single you've ever heard. Like he can play just singles. And my dad
Oh,
turns to me and he's like, this is a soundtrack of my life. That's how I know I picked the right concert. So
oh
Brian
my
Adams
God.
is amazing. And then when you mentioned Nine Inch Nails, I always say the best concert I've ever seen in my life was Nine Inch Nails. And I was at that show because I was a Queens of the Stone Age fan. So it was Death from Above 1979, Queens of the Stone Age, Nine Inch Nails. So I'm there
Wow.
for Queens of the Stone Age. I'm familiar with Nine Inch Nails at that point. I respect them, but I'm not a fan. And
Totally.
they took someone that wasn't there as a fan, and it was by far the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. Every part of it, the the songs, the performances, the audio, the visual, the videos, the not banter because he's not talking a lot, but just the way he communicates with the crowd. Uh, you could feel a touch of genius on
Totally.
everything involved in that concert, and you know that genius is Trent Reznor.
100%. Like he puts the work and the time into it too. I'm uh, before they went out when Freeze was in the band, I had heard they were in rehearsals for something like 6 months. Like they put
Jeez.
so much time into like the minutia of everything, which is incredible. But that's like that shows. Like that's not like no one's riding on the seat of their pants or anything or flying on the seat of their pants in that situation. Everyone's like knows every second of what's going to happen. And like at that point, you can kind of muscle memory everything, and it's like you don't have to think, which is the best way to be able to perform. Like,
So
yeah.
yeah, and then I saw them again. So that was in Montreal, and then years later, I saw them at a festival in Philly, and somehow is still Queens of the Stone Age and Nine Inch Nails as the two headliners.
No
And
way.
and that Nine Inch Nails show was completely different from the one in Montreal. And I would say that's those two are the two best shows I've ever seen. Like they can't
Wow,
miss. They're so good.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Nice, man. I
yeah.
love that.
So this Spiritual Machines 2, this comes out in 2021. So that's the last full length Our Lady Peace album. Since then, you guys, for the 30-year anniversary of Naveed, you guys have been releasing these EPs, and there's new songs on these EPs. Uh, I'm asking as a Our Lady Peace fan, are there plans for a new full length album, or is there a volume four, another EP coming out? Can you share anything? You can tell me to take a bus, but I have to ask on behalf of the fans.
No, no, no. Yeah. We released those three, like basically greatest hits EPs leading up to this tour. But we're working on a full length right now. We've just only recorded the three songs. There's a huge amount of songs written and ready to go. It's just been a matter of like trying to find timing and make things like line up to be able to get together to record. We were supposed to like last summer, and then like we were on the phone talking details, and my wife fell off the deck and like almost broke her foot. And I'm like, what is happening right now? So we ended up having to like cancel that recording trip, and like it's just been like a bunch of little things that have kind of been roadblocks. But actually, I think in about an hour and a half, I have a call with the boys about recording. So something's going to happen, I'm sure.
Ooh, that's exciting. So, with the final 20 minutes or so of this interview, I'd love to talk about the live show. You
Yeah,
guys
absolutely.
just wrapped up the 30th anniversary of Naveed tour. So it was you guys and Collective Soul, and then on selective dates there was different bands. Lucky for me, here in Ottawa, it was Winter Sleep opening, who's my favorite band of all time. I've got their
They're
album
amazing.
here. They're man, those guys are so good. So for me, when I see Winter Sleep, my favorite band, and then Our Lady Peace, a band I love, and then Collective Soul, that people my age, guitarists growing up we're learning those Collective Soul guitar riffs that are simple but incredible. So I
Totally.
had never seen Collective Soul before. So as soon as I see the triple bill, I buy a ticket. Like that's such a no-brainer. So can you talk about now that that tour wrapped up? That was February and March. It's funny you can now look back at that tour and if you could share anything about that tour. What was that tour like? It was a massive success. You could see the just packed arenas everywhere you guys went. I witnessed the Ottawa show where all three bands were incredible. So it was such a success musically on the night of. What can you say about that tour now wrapping it up in a bow those 2 months?
Wow. Like looking back, there was a bit of chaos. And not in like a performance way or anything like that. It was like just logistics on the whole thing. I don't know what kept happening. I think we went through something like six tour buses on that tour because they just kept breaking down. The last one we had, there was like it was a star coach, so it was a bedroom in the back, and it was just the band bus. So like no one slept in the back. That was like Rain was like, we'll put our bags back there, and I'm like, I respect that. Like you're not taking like a hierarchy thing being here. Like I'm taking the suite in the back. It's like no, we're all gonna sleep in our bunks, and we'll put our backpacks on that king size bed in the back. But the back lounge area where the bed was, there was a flood So it became like a marsh back there. Like you couldn't step on the carpet because like water would squirt up at you and everything. And then it became like, the smell of like a moldy carpet and like just weird stuff like that. And even to the point of we were supposed to fly out to Calgary to do production rehearsals in the Saddle Dome, and I was making dinner for my family, and I get a notification from my car service that there's been a plane crash at YYZ. I'm like, oh, really? Like, I have to like go to Pearson right now and get on a plane as they're trying to clean up a plane crash. It was so strange. Like, just like weird things kept just happening in that way that like Duncan dubbed the tour like the planes, trains, and automobile tour because it was just anything goes at that point. Like uh, but yeah, the shows were so much fun, like so much fun, and like the reaction from the fans and just like the quantity of the fans that were coming out in droves for these shows. Like it was incredible, man. Like I haven't seen anything like that with this band since I've been a part of it. Like shows have always been big and successful, and like the songs have meant a lot of to people, but like not like this. This has been like a resurgence, maybe. Like I feel like there's more relevance now with the band than there has been in the last 11 years that I've been around.
Do you think it was the nostalgia of Naveed that it's such a beloved album?
It could be. It totally could be that. I don't know. I feel like there's been more people have cared more about the 90s again. There's trends. There was the 80s before the 90s. Now it's more like 2000s and stuff like that. But like, it was just a relevance thing too that like has kind of made that time period more important to people, maybe. And it's great. It's great to be a part of that.
I keep seeing, for some reason, Edmonton loves to give you Edmonton Oiler jerseys. I've seen, I think, at least two of them. Is there a story behind Edmonton just wanting to make sure you're wearing the right Canadian jersey for them?
Well, the really funny part is that I'm like not a sports fan in any way. Like I saw my first hockey game when we played that Stanley Cup playoff, and I got to like sit in the owner's box and like watch that. And I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, I don't think I'm really getting the full experience as I'm hitting a buffet on an open bar. But like the jerseys are another story. I sent my luggage home halfway through the tour because I had so many jerseys I couldn't even close my suitcase anymore. And they're all hanging up in my closet upstairs. Like maybe one day my kid will be into sports and he can wear them. But like
We
it's
have
funny.
a fan question about the tour. So this is from Elizabeth Moon, and her question is, since you've asked fans to come up with a playlist for the band's 30th anniversary tour, how do you narrow down 30 years of music into one tour? And will there be a special edition vinyl sold on the tour?
Oh, that's a good idea. I'm not quite sure. I can't answer that. But narrowing down the songs, that was a heck of a process. I know Rain kept setting like song lists out and then he'd be like, oh, nope, nope, and like changing stuff. And there was quite a few songs that even were on that list that we didn't end up playing on this tour. Like I think we played Happiness in the Fish maybe once, which I kind of wish we played more, to be honest, because for me as a fan of the band, that one really meant a lot to me. And trying to do that one like proper justice too, because the drums are so cool on that song. Um, but yeah, it's a process trying to actually like slim down that massive catalog into something that's going to be nostalgic and hit proper, if that makes sense.
It's yeah, man. It's the gift and the it's I mean, it's the curse you want to have, but it's the gift and the curse of a band that's had 33 hit singles, right? Like
Yeah,
most people can't get one hit. So for you guys, 33 hit singles for Our Lady Peace. And even if you guys just did singles for your entire, it looked like it was like a 2 hour set. Um,
yeah.
it's still more than 2 hours worth of music. So if you didn't even play new songs and covers, you couldn't get through all the singles anyway. So there's always going to be a song or two that aren't in the set list that people maybe want.
Totally, man. And we did this halftime show for the Alouettes in Montreal. I think like 2 years ago or something like that. And it's the only time we've ever done like a medley, which was the craziest thing. Rain had like suggested which songs to do, and then I had to like cut them up and figure out how we're doing this all. And it was crazy to go from like hit to hit to hit to hit to hit in like such a short amount of time. But you're right. There's so many songs. Like,
I got good news the other day that just as your 30th anniversary tour wrapped up, you guys decide to keep the fun going and you announce that was Canada. And then it gets announced that there's now a US tour coming up that is Collective Soul now as the headliner in their country with Our Lady Peace opening. And then Live,
yeah.
who is a great band I saw here at Blues Fest. Are how happy are you that the fun and games get to continue longer with that tour? And if our fans listening today go out and buy a ticket for that tour, what can they expect from Our Lady Peace?
Well, on shows like that, because of our set length and stuff like that, it's probably going to be focused more on hits. So you'll hear the songs that you're going there to hear. But from like a perspective personally, I can't wait. Collective Soul are such sweet dudes. Specifically, their drummer Johnny Rabb. He has been like he was one of my heroes growing up, and to get to know that guy, like he is just so freaking nice and so sweet and so humble that it's exactly, what you want to become, like as a person and as an artist. And then you got Live, and I actually have a side project that I'm doing writing with Zach Loy, who's the guitarist from Live. So like we have like this amazing relationship, and we toured together back in 2019 when we were out with Bush and them. So it's going to be great. It's like those amphitheater tours. It kind of feels like summer camp. You get up off your bus, you go look for a cup of coffee and a shower, and get ready for a sound check. Hit catering, play the show, hit catering again because you can, and then like just chill out and watch great music being performed by people that you love and respect. So it's going to be great. I can't wait. And then we're actually spinning that tour minus Live. We're playing Bud Stage in Toronto in July with Collective Soul, which is being branded. It's going to be the same like production and tour basically as the OLP 30 that we're bringing it out for that.
And there's some festival dates as well. There's a Quebec festival where you're playing the same day with Moist, another great Canadian band.
Yep.
Um, I messaged you during Collective Soul's set. I messaged being like, "Man, this drummer is crushing it." So like I wasn't familiar with him, and I was like, "He's hitting like the snare hit." Their drums sounded incredible, and it was like you could just the snap on that kit from when they were playing was awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. And he has the whole thing called like the freehand technique. He has like books and probably videos and stuff like that about like this whole like one hand drum roll technique that he coined. He's like a pioneer, this guy, Johnny Rabb. And he actually had his own stick company at one point too, that I had those sticks when I was a kid. And yeah, it's super strange to get to know people that you respect in that way. But like it's amazing when you meet someone that you respect in that way and they're also just a freaking great human being. Because I don't feel like that always happens. It doesn't always go hand in hand that like someone that has success and is like at that level is necessarily a great person as well, you know?
So the Ottawa show where I met you was, I believe, Friday the 7th. So it was Sunday the 9th that you were in London, your birthday, is that right?
Well, we played London on the 8th, and then
8th.
my birthday was the 9th.
Okay, so yeah, you had a birthday home show in London,
Yeah.
and I saw, I think, a picture where Collective Soul kind of celebrated your birthday
Yeah, they came into the dressing room before the show and they all sang me happy birthday and gave me a couple of Star Wars shirts.
in perfect harmony as a band can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, you guys are way too sweet. And then after the show, which was crazy because like I was playing my hometown arena and it was sold out and my sister was there and like all these like old bandmates and stuff. So there was this after show upstairs at the arena of like 70 people. And that's where Rain and the other guys surprised me with three big birthday cakes, and like the whole room erupted in a happy birthday, and it was just like so sweet. Like those guys, it's such an amazing like family unit, and the way that like they treat people, it's so respectable.
We have a fan question from Victoria, BC. This is from Allison Chapman. Her question is, what's the most embarrassing or funny thing that's happened on stage during a concert? Does anything come to mind that you'd like to share?
It's that first tour at the weekend again. My drum throne let go and I fell backwards, like
Off?
during a show. And I was a featherweight back then too. I was like 130 pounds, if that. And I just like very interesting, very very
And in a
interesting.
moment, there was just no drummer.
Yeah, yeah, total spinal tap. There was, not spontaneously combusted, but like I was gone. I wasn't there anymore.
That's funny. The band turns around, just no idea what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
We have another question. This is from Jerseys for Drummers that I believe you're familiar with on Instagram.
Totally.
So they say, they ask, what are your favorite OLP drum riffs? And what are your favorite non-OLP drum riffs that push your limits behind the kit? And then he asked if you could be a drummer for any artist, who would it be? So you kind of answered that with maybe Nine Inch Nails, if you could play with a band that you love. But
Totally.
so I guess what are your favorite drum riffs from OLP and then from maybe artists that aren't OLP?
Man,
Any tasty riffs that come to mind?
it might even just be like the drum intro to Innocent. Like there's something so like open but powerful about it. And like getting to play that live too, it's like you can hear it's one of those things where like, you'll have a guitar riff, you'll play once and the whole audience knows what song it is. That drum intro is so integral to that sound and that song that like you can hear an arena erupt just with drums. So that comes to mind for that. As for like a non OLP, that's a pretty tough one.
So
Might even
When you mentioned Dave Grohl being one of your favorites, it makes me think of Dave Grohl playing on the Queens of the Stone Age album, Songs for the
oh my
Deaf.
god,
That
yeah.
there's the one song that's like a 1 minute drum solo intro. I feel like I feel like that song would be a good one. But what would be your choice? What do you think?
Yeah, totally. Well, you know what? Even just like the opening snare hits on Judith, that Perfect Circle song, that alone, it's like there's something so signature about that. Like if you didn't play that part right and hit into that song, you would be doing like a massive injustice.
Yeah, yeah, that's such a haunting song too.
Oh yeah.
We have kind words sent in from another great Canadian drummer. This is from Jeremy Kleinhunts, drummer for Jan Arden, Alessia Cara, and Cardinal Official. Jeremy says, Jason is a wealth of knowledge and experience. He's a fellow bro in the drumming scene who is always, always, always down to share his input or advice with me on recording, mics, drums, etc. A true lad. So that's from Jeremy.
Oh, I love him. He's a sweetheart, man, and a great drummer as well. Like I love the stuff he does. He has his own home studio, and his sounds are just like I love it.
Is that a thing that you find most successful drummers now find a way to have some form of a home studio?
Well, I think it was kind of a product of COVID too, like the whole remote thing, being able to offer drum tracks like within an hour, have them back to the artist, something like that. Like the turnaround is incredible. And also from like a fiscal way of like not spending money on a studio and an engineer and a producer and all that stuff to be able to record drums, especially in, today's tighter budgets. It's something that like really helps someone be able to offer more than the other guy. But it's a whole nother can of worms trying to record drums compared to play drums. That's a completely different set of skills. So people that can do it well, good for you. I try my best, but I'm not perfect.
So I have just a handful of deeper thought-provoking questions. Can you handle just a few more, maybe four questions?
Hit me.
All right. you've achieved so much. You're in one of the most iconic, best-selling Canadian bands of all time. Do you, and I just heard that, what is it? I think is it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? You guys were just, um,
Walk of Fame.
the Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much history here with Our Lady Peace, so much success. You and your career, we've gone over all the different people you've performed with. Do you have any goals in your heart that you're still working towards that you haven't attained yet? Or are you a man fulfilled? It's all gravy after this.
Honestly, I have a hard time ever feeling like satisfied. I'm not one to really like look at my back catalog or my history to be like, I've really done something great. That's not how I think. I'm always just like, what is next? Where am I going? Um, it's that kind of like that whole connect the dots thing of seeing like, it makes sense looking back. I wish I could see where everything was connecting coming up. For me as a musician, I want to be able to create something that is touching people and means something to people, and that is an ongoing thing. To be able to like still be able to like tap in on that magic is something that I really strive for. And I've like from a performance perspective, I'd like to be playing bigger shows. Like there's something so special about that. Like um, there's a different anxiety and a different like level of intimacy when you're playing a smaller show like a club or something like that. But like I was brought up on like big stadium rock and stuff like that, so that's something always want to achieve. I would love to be in the position where like GNR is, where they're playing 40, 50,000 people a night. That would be amazing.
And when you look back on your life and career, what are you most proud of and what are you most grateful for?
Grateful that I am 40 years old and I'm over 20 years into my career and I'm still able to put food on the table for my family and a roof over our head, especially with how the music industry is now. And I'm super grateful to be doing it with people that I admire, love, and respect, because I don't phone it in. I don't, I'm not just doing this for a paycheck or something like that. I'm doing this because I actually want to be here and I actually care. So to have that kind of fulfillment in my life, I feel like that means like more than anything.
And if you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self, so you could whisper words of advice, taking the last 30 years worth of uh experience and lessons and mentorships and ups and downs, if you could whisper words of advice into cute little Jason's ear at 10 years old to help guide him through this human experience, what do you share with him?
Just have faith in the process. Like, know that things are going to work out, because I remember being like even like 17 years old and having like anxieties about being like, is this ever going to hit? Am I ever going to be able to do this? Like, how am I going to get from like playing in my parents' basement to like the big stage, And like the path is not clear. Nothing makes sense of how anything's actually going to happen. But I wish I could tell myself that things were going to work out so that I didn't have to worry so much about that.
And is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have supported you all the way back in the weekend days, all the way up to now with Our Lady Peace?
Thank you. Like from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because I wouldn't be able to do this without the fans. I wouldn't be able to do any of this if no one cared. So like it means the world to me that I get to do this and that I get to share what I love and my passion with the rest of you.